Hey there, RecRoom. Oxy here, and in this tutorial, I'm going to be going over how you can make an infinite gun system in RecRoom. A few things you need to know before we get started is that this method will only work with 2 weapons of your choice. So you can choose any weapon in the game, but it will only work for 2 of them. Another thing that it will also warrant you to use a game chip specifically set up to be in the PvP orientation. But no worries, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to set everything up so that you can have unlimited guns that take 0 ink inside of your rooms. This is going to help you save ink and other things, but the main thing is that it will allow you to have infinite guns. This is going to be using a method that has not really been shouted out yet, I guess you could say. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So now that we're getting started with the tutorial, I've went ahead and gave myself a bit of a larger area so that I can have a little more room to work around. And I'm assuming that in your map that you want infinite guns with, you're going to have a lot of places that need guns. So I've went ahead and gave myself a large area. It's up to you though. But the first thing we're going to be doing is making the PvP chip. I'm going to show you how to do that now. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is getting my PvP chip out. To do that, I'm just going to look at my watch and click my backpack and choose use on the maker pin. It's going to appear right in front of you like this, but I'm just going to make sure mine's favorited, and I'm just going to pull it from my back if you're on VR. So now that we have our maker pin, we're just going to look at our menu and click palette. This is going to prompt us with this little palette screen right here, and we're just going to click the search tool and then search up game, and that is your game chip. It says game rules. We're going to click on that and spawn it in wherever you'd like. I'm just going to spawn mine right here. Usually you should try to keep your circuits around each other so that you have a good space to build in. So I'm going to now click configure and click on my game chip. So you're gonna see this screen with a bunch of rules. I'm gonna go over the rules that you need for this. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna click on game rules. I'm gonna click on name, and I'm just gonna rename it to PvP. I'm gonna go down every single rule just so you can know what you need to have for any PvP in specific. So I'm just gonna click a game configuration. We won't be using any of those. We're going to change our manual start requirements to 1, to 1, and to 1. So that was already the base, so you shouldn't need to change anything. But if you were using an already existing chip, make sure all 3 of those are set to 1. Automatic start requirements, it should just be set to 1 for this. And we are going to be using automatic game start supported, but we're not going to click that now because we don't want the game starting on us. So this should all be right. Notifications and voiceovers, doesn't matter. It's whatever you want. Timing, I'm just going to change this to, actually never mind, I'm going to keep this one at 10, and I'm going to change this second one to 10 as well, just so it's a nice and even countdown. Respawn on game start, that one does need to be on, but respawn on game over is up to you. I'm going to leave that one on. So join in progress support, make sure that is on. You want people to be able to join your game when it's started. In game, if start requirements not met, we're just going to keep that to on. It doesn't really matter since our minimum start requirement is 1 player. Teams, this one's pretty important. We're going to change our team count to 40, which is the max players in a instance, and then our team size to 1. That will put every player in the room in their own team. Team selection method, just click random. Team change during game support, that's off. Respawn on team change during game, turn that to off, doesn't need to be on. XSplit team selection supported, doesn't matter. Player stats, stat 1 name, none of this matters. We can just go ahead and skip down through some of these because some of these don't even matter. Respawn, auto respawn supported, keep that on, that's the base setting. Keep your respawn delay to whatever it was at default. Revive, friendly fire, player HUD, player health, none of this matters. Spawn equipment, we do want to click this. This is what is going to be the key to unlimited weapons. So we're just going to start off with one weapon, but to get to, you would just change this second offhand to whatever you'd like. But I'm just going to start off with one weapon so it's easy. I'm just going to use a laser burst gun. That's just going to be my main ham spawned equipment weapon, and that is what is going to let us have infinite weapons. So equipment doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and turn the item ring effect off and infinite reserve ammunition on. That's what you want to have. Broken equipment doesn't matter. Out of bounds, low price, basic settings, no, we're good. So that's our PvP chip setup basically, besides one setting, which is automatic game start. So now I'm going to get into what you need to be doing to actually spawn in these weapons and achieve these weapons, and we'll come back to this a little bit later. Alright, so now that we have our PvP chip that we just set up, we're going to set up our spawn area so that it will take away the weapon that you spawn with. Because with the spawn on start with equipment, it will make you spawn in with a weapon. We're going to use that mechanic add to advantage so we can take away the weapon as soon as it spawns to give the effect that the weapon was never there in the first place. So to achieve that, we're just going to go back to the search tool, which is right here. If you already had game in there, we're just going to delete that, and then we're going to type in object, and then you should see object respawner. We're just going to have one of these for right now, and then we're going to get our welcome mat set up for the spawn. Welcome mat, I'm going to put this down here. This is my spawn point for my room. So this is where all the players will generally spawn in the room, but the game will be started, so we want them to spawn in other positions. So to do that, we're just going to type in respawn, and we're going to select the respawn point. It's gonna be this little green arrow. So I'm just going to make about 1 or 2 of these, just so that I have multiple places for a player to spawn when the game started. So now I'm going to configure these. Actually, I'm not going to configure this. I'm going to keep this to during game so that it'll spawn a player right there during the game. So the other thing we're going to be needing is a trigger volume version 1. So we're just going to go type in TRIGG. Alright, trigger volume version 1. We're just going to select that and spawn it in right here. It should be purple, but we're going to change it to an object variant in just a second. So you don't want your trigger volume to be this high, because the way we're going to set it up is to, if they go in this area, it's going to respawn the weapon that they have in their hands. So there that is right now. I'm just going to keep it low to the ground because an object spawns slightly below a player whenever they spawn in the game. I'm going to quickly select these two and move them down just a bit so that they're more inside of the trigger volume. Sorry, I had the trigger volume selected, so I'm just gonna unselect that. I'm gonna move these player respawners down. Alright, so now they're in the trigger volume that's really close to the ground, so you won't have to worry about players going in there and their weapon respawning. Now we're going to use the configure tool and select the trigger volume, which is the big purple box. And then we're going to make sure it keeps track of objects. If you did it right, you should see that it appears green now. All right, so now that we have all of our things set up that we need, we're just going to bring out our wire tool and wire respawn object by ID to when entering zone on the trigger volume. Now we're going to respawn the object by tag when entering the zone. So both of those pins over there should be wired to this red pin right here. So now we're going to open our palette and then we're going to get the tag of our object. So I'm going to find the laser burst gun and then I'm going to configure it. I'm going to scroll down, and as you can see, the current tag of the laser burst gun is laser burst gun. So now that I have the tag for that, I don't need this gun anymore. So I'm going to delete it. Now I'm going to come in here and configure my trigger volume to filter by tag. And then we're just going to type in the tag that was on your weapon that you want to be unlimited. So I'm just going to put laser burst gun. All one word, I guess you could say. And then that should be set up. Now whenever I respawn, the automatic weapon that I would receive is now gone. Because of our PvP chip settings, it allows us to get an infinite amount of reserve weapons with no ink. So now I'm just going to open my palette up again, and I'm going to now get out another trigger volume. This one is going to be how we actually access the guns. So we're going to now just spawn in a regular trigger volume that keeps track of players. Now we're going to go back to our search and then type in respawn yet again. Now we should see respawn point. I'm going to go down to the ground and spawn that in. I'm going to bring out my wire tool, come over here and wire when entering zone to spawn player here now. Now I'm going to configure this. Now I'm going to deselect respawn secondary hand item politely and make sure keep held tools is on just for anything. So when this is going to be used is we're going to just set it to manual, so it won't respawn any players here randomly. So it's only going to respawn you here whenever you put your hand or any part of your body inside of it. So now we have that set up. I'm just going to put a laser burst gun inside of it just so you can see the indication to spawn in a laser burst gun. So I'm just going to come over here, spawn one in, configure it. As highlight beacon, I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to make sure it is not grabbable, and we should be set up other than freezing it. So the reason we're freezing it is because we don't want it to fall when we drop the edit. Now the laser burst AR is right there. So to prove that this works, I'm going to now come back over to my PvP chip, and I'm going to now go back over here and allow automatic game starts. I'm going to turn that on, and my game is going to restart in 10 seconds.
Game on.
Alright, so now that the game has started, you did not spawn with a weapon. That's because it automatically took the weapon away as soon as you spawned by the object respawner. So to get my weapon, I'm just going to come over here and touch my trigger volume. Now, a laser burst AR spawned inside of my hand. Pretty cool, right? I can do this an infinite number of times. Doesn't matter how many times I do it, it doesn't take up any ink at all. So, I'm just going to show you this by taking out my maker pen. I'm going to open my palette, and I'm going to show you guys the ink when I go inside of this. Sorry. I'm going to show you guys the ink. So it's 53.07 right now. And I'm going to hop inside of my trigger volume. I had a weapon spawn in my hand. And then it's still at 53.07. You don't have to worry about any of these weapons on the ground. They will respawn eventually. But that's going to be it for this section of the tutorial. I'm going to show how you can do 2 guns now. So now in this portion of the tutorial, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can get 2 weapons. It's a little different than the first method because we're going to have to respawn the object that is not here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this easy on myself, and I'm just going to select my object respawner and my trigger volume that I already made, and I'm just going to clone it over here. I'm going to rotate it, and then I'm going to move it back to where the other one was, but have it slightly sticking out so that I can know where I need to configure. Make sure that it is in all of the respawn points though, because that is how you're going to respawn the weapon whenever you spawn in. So now I'm going to head back over to my PvP chip, configure, and then I'm going to tap on my PvP chip. So now I'm going to head back over to my spawn equipment, and then I'm just going to change my spawn equipment to, let's go with paint pistol. So say the second gun that I want to be infinite is the paint pistol. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to go off of here, make sure the automatic game start is off, and now I'm just going to get the tag of the paintball pistol. So I'm going to come back over here, select paint pistol, I'm going to configure, let's get that tag. It's just paint pistol. So I'm going to delete this again, and then I'm going to come back over here to my new trigger volume, and then I'm going to make sure it filters by the tag of paint pistol. There we go. I'm going to X off of that, and now it's going to respawn all of the paint pistols. So I'm going to get my paint pistol respawner by using the select tool, and I'm just going to select the paint pistol trigger volume and the paint pistol object respawner. Now I'm going to clone this just because it's a lot easier. I'm going to come back over here to my AR spawner, and then I'm going to put it inside of here. And since this is a little big for the area, I'm just going to manipulate this down over, and I'm going to make it similar to the size of the respawn area that I have. So now whenever I come in here, it's not going to spawn my offhand, which I set to the paint pistol. Now that I want my paint pistol to spawn, I'm going to actually come back over here. And I'm going to go to gadgets. Sorry, I'm going to go to search tool. I'm just going to search up for another trigger volume. Trigger. And I'm going to spawn in trigger volume version 1. Make that appear right in front of me. And then I'm going to go back and get the respawn point again. Respawn. And then it should say respawn point. I'm going to spawn that in directly above here. Then I'm going to wire them. Keep track of player to when entering zone. So it's going to respawn the player by their player ID. I'm going to move this down similar to my floor so that I'm not spawning in the air. So now it's going to respawn the paintball pistol and the AR. I don't want that. I want it to respawn just the paintball pistol. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did over there, except I'm going to change the object tag to laser burst gun. So I'm going to go back over here to the object respawner that I already have. I'm going to take this and clone it over. I'm going to take this over here to my other respawner. Going to line it up. That looks good to me. I'm going to put this down in the floor just slightly. And now I'm going to bring out configure the trigger volume, and then type in laser burst gun. So that's what you would do for all of the weapons that you want to respawn. If you have two, you're just going to respawn the opposite tag of what you had over here. So now I'm going to show this work actually. Since the game's not started, it's not going to respawn me with a weapon, as you can see. So I'm just going to come back over here, configure my game chip, and make sure automatic game start is supported. Now when I respawn, I'm not going to spawn in with any weapons in my hand at all. You're going to see this in just a few moments.
Game on.
As you can see, it did its job and deleted both of the weapons I was supposed to spawn in with. I'm going to show this work with the trigger volume over here first. And I'm just going to come in here and make sure it doesn't spawn me with a pistol. As you can see, it didn't. So I'm just going to throw this back in here so it gets deleted. Sorry, there's no respawner there. So over here, it's going to allow me to spawn in with a paint pistol and not a laser burst gun, because we filtered it to take away the laser burst gun whenever we spawn in. So as you can see, in my opposite hand, I got a paint pistol. That's going to be it for today's video. I'll see you in the outro. So if you did enjoy today's tutorial, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. This has been Oxy with how to make infinite guns inside of RecRoom. I'll see you later. Peace.